This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Welcome to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler of Regari Financial. Logan is the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regari. And wherever you happen to be in Southern California, thank you so much for deciding to spend a little time with us today. My name is Ryan Stutz. Always a pleasure to get together with Logan. And Logan, I hope you're off to a good start in the new year.
Yeah, I am, Ron. As you know, it's radio day, so I'm ready for it. And things are moving along so far this year. So it seems like most people are kind of off to a slow start, and the weather and all that stuff out here hasn't been the best. So that's kind of where we're at. How about yourself?
Yeah, we're pretty much the same. I think it's pretty much like that all over the country. Some people are really raring to go and get started and get organized and everything else at the beginning of the year, and others are just kind of slow out of the gate because of COVID and all the other stuff that's happening.
Yeah, it seems like we can't get away from that word, right? It keeps kind of coming back and back. So hopefully things kind of get back to where they were a few months ago, but we'll see how that goes. I feel like we've been talking about that a lot on the show over the past few years.
Yeah, and I'm getting tired of talking about it, to tell you the truth.
Agreed.
Everybody's tired of hearing about it. Well, let's get down to business here, and let me give everybody your phone number, Logan, so they can get in touch with you and get a discovery meeting going, a getting to know you session. The number is 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. The show is all about getting you to and through retirement. That is Logan Sadler's specialty at Regari Financial. And once again, that number is 888-823-PLAN. When we say discovery meeting, that means that you can have an introductory conversation with Logan. It's not going to cost you anything and not going to obligate you to do anything at all. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. You know, Logan, many states in 2021 reported record high filings for new business entities like LLCs and S-Corps. Is this a good sign that people are apparently looking to start their own businesses in record numbers?
Yeah, like you said, 2020 was a big year, and then 2021 was an even bigger year. And I think, there's always good and bad that comes with things like this. I think it is really good that a lot of people are taking that plunge and taking the leap of faith and going out there and starting their own business. I looked at a lot of the numbers, and you're seeing companies like, marketing, construction, tech companies, a lot of different startups out there where people are really kind of getting going and kind of, taking charge of their own life, which I think is great. Being your own boss is something that, I can speak from experience on this. It's something that's very rewarding. It's very, it's very fulfilling in a lot of ways, but it's also very tough, right? It's not always sunshine and rainbows, right? There's always things like, instead of getting a paycheck every month from your employer for showing up and doing your job, now you got to go out there and find a way to create the paycheck for others, right? So it's something where it does get very challenging, and there's definitely a lot of risks that come along with that, but it is very, very rewarding. And I think, seeing the record amount of startups, I know it was in the millions this year of people that started up LLCs or corporations. And I think we won't really see the effects of that, because until the next few years and kind of see how these companies unfold. Because a lot of the sectors where these companies have opened up new businesses or branched out on their own, a lot of those sectors that they're opening up in are kind of at a record pace right now. So I think we'll kind of figure out where all this kind of lies here in the few years when we start to see a little bit of a slowdown or a pullback and see how many of these companies can continue on their own without having to go back to their old boss or their old employer. So I do think it is a good thing. Like I said, it's just we just got to watch and see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting also that with so many people working from home these days and with technology allowing folks to get things done via computer, a lot of people starting at-home businesses, working for themselves, working online. So
who would have thought, right, a few years ago?
Exactly. Yeah, things have changed a lot in the last few years, that's for sure.
Yes.
Hey, let's do a little financial grocery shopping. How is planning for retirement like going to the grocery store, you might ask? Well, let's explore that. You need to know what you need. I don't know about you, Logan, but anytime I go, I have to jot down a few items on a piece of paper, or otherwise I'll probably forget something.
Yeah, I'm there as well. And I never like to go hungry, because if I go hungry, then I always buy everything I don't need.
Yeah, true. Me too. Well, if you go to the grocery store without a list, it's guaranteed to go badly. You'll end up forgetting something that you needed, and you'll buy something that you don't need, just like Logan. And how does this relate to retirement planning, Logan? What kind of advice can you give folks?
Yeah, when you go to the grocery store, you need to know what you need, right? And I think that's a lot of what people don't do or do very well. It's either it's vice versa. So if you go to the grocery store without a list, you're guaranteed to probably buy something bad. Or you're probably there to probably forget something or something you really didn't need that you just kind of bought on a whim. And I think in retirement planning, people often really don't know what their money needs to do. And I think, am I growing my money for income? Am I putting it in the stock for long-term growth? Is this a hedge against, long-term care cost? I mean, there's kind of a little bit of all of that. And I think you really need to know what your money's doing and what your plan and what these assets what these, positions in your portfolio are geared towards. I think that's one of the biggest things. You don't want to just kind of impulse buy along the way. I see it all the time where people kind of end up with a couple things along the way that really don't make sense for a financial plan. It's just somebody kind of sold this to them along the way, or they kind of just thought it was a good idea. And I think having a really good advisor that's there to help you identify what you need and be able to advise along the way to identify exactly what do you need in your portfolio to get you along the way. There's so many good financial products and investment vehicles out there nowadays, and there's still some that aren't so good or don't make sense for everyone. So it's really, really important to understand you need to know what you need.
Okay, and also you need to make sure that everything you have fits together. If you plan on making chili when you go home, you don't want to buy chicken and celery and a lettuce and all that sort of thing. That's probably not going to get it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to eat chili at that house, right? I think that's something you really got to look at. I think, making sure everything fits together is probably one of the most important things. And like you said, when you go to the grocery store, you don't want a whole bunch of just random things in your cart that aren't really making sense for the meals that you're trying to prepare for the week. So I think that translates very similarly into retirement or in financial planning. Really, a lot of people just have a bunch of different products or a bunch of different stocks or mutual funds or whatever they have in there that don't really fit cohesively. They don't really complement each other to get to that end goal. And I think a lot of people, struggle throughout those what we call the distribution phase, which is time when you're no longer working and you're going to start withdrawing money, or you're getting close to that phase. It really starts to transition from, okay, I got all these stocks, or I got all this 401k money, or I got whatever I have. How do I transition that into something that's going to pay me, right? I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people, to make sure we're doing that effectively, to making sure everything we kind of have in the portfolio makes sense.
Oh, absolutely right. And we're talking about how financial grocery shopping makes sense. We're talking about how grocery shopping in the grocery store lends itself to some lessons with financial planning. And you're listening to The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Regari Financial. By the way, let me throw this number in here again, 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-PLAN. That is your number to get in touch with Regari. Logan, also, you need to know how much you're paying. You don't want to go to the grocery store and have no idea how much the bill is going to be when you get to the checkout counter. And I guess you could say the same thing about financial planning.
Yeah, you're right. I've used this one before, and I'll use it again. It's one of my favorite examples. And since we're talking about food, it almost kind of fits in perfect. So, I always say you can go to McDonald's and get a $1 burger, right? We all know that. The dollar menu's been around forever. But, the quality isn't always there. The service isn't always there. But if you're looking for something fast and cheap, it fits what we're trying to do. If you go get a burger at In-N-Out Burger, I'm probably paying $1 or $2 more, but the service, the taste, everything that you expect from In-N-Out is what you get. And so I always like to say that with retirement planning in the financial world, it really kind of fits into that as well. There is a lot of different things you can get out there, like robo-advisors or different advisors that are a lot cheaper, but it's not always the best way to go. And you look at things like financial products, right? You really want to understand, when you're looking at financial products, you want to understand the cost of those products. And I think a lot of people just look at the fees. And I think fees are really, really talked about nowadays, which is good and bad, right? I think it's important to understand what the fee is, but you also want to understand what the overall cost of it is. There's other things like fund expenses or, different types of expenses that go into financial products that a lot of people don't even consider or don't really know. And I think that's really important, is knowing the overall cost of what this product or what this investment is going to cost you over the long run.
Well, you already mentioned this a moment ago. We were talking about that $1 burger, which is not the best burger around for sure, but and not to put down any particular restaurant chain, but the cheapest option isn't always the best. Sometimes you can get pretty much the same thing for the same price, but other times it doesn't work out that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, with the analogy there of the burger, not saying one's better than the other, right? It's just kind of depending on what you prefer and what you're trying to go for. And I think that is same with financial world. I know a lot of advisors charge higher fees and they provide better service, better advice, and really a better off comprehensive plan than some other advisors, right? You can get some cheap advisors that meet with you once a year. It's a really cost-effective way for you to invest and kind of get some advice here and there, but you don't really have that, that CFO of your financials in charge with you, right? You don't have that team member, a part of your family, to really be there to guide you throughout that planning process and into that next phase. And I think that's where a really good financial advisor should be able to provide the value. And I think what a lot of people are kind of starting to realize nowadays is you want more than just someone that's going to sell you an annuity or a stock, right? You want to really understand, how do these things fit in together? I have a 401k at work. My wife has an IRA. I have a Roth. We have some real estate investments. How does this all make sense, right? And I think that's what we do at Regari Financial very well, is looking at the big picture and understanding that not every one of you is the same. There's a lot of different pieces that fit together. So that's exactly why we do this radio show. It's to spread a lot of information and give a lot of education, but it's also, we do second opinions, and that's what the discovery meeting is for. Ron will give you the number here in a second, but you give that number a call, come in, sit down with me, or sit over Zoom, and we could really get a conversation together about how to get a comprehensive plan to transition into retirement.
That is exactly right. And that number is 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-7526, 888-823-PLAN. All you got to do today is call, leave a message with your name and phone number. You'll get a call back from the good folks at Regari Financial, and then you can arrange to have that complimentary meeting with Logan Sadler, whether it be on the telephone or maybe via Zoom, or maybe you might want to come into one of the convenient offices in Hemet or Redlands. Either way, you'll be talking to Logan Sadler, same guy you hear on this radio show. And we've been talking about grocery shopping here, and it's amazing how many parallels there are between grocery shopping and financial planning. Logan would be happy to talk with you more about all of that and everything else that you hear on this show, and maybe questions you might have. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it all happen. Ron Stutz here along with Logan Sadler, and there's more coming up on today's edition of The Financial Beat.
At the end of the day, no one truly understands your financial wants and desires better than you. That's why it's important to have financial independence. This means you can work when you want, you know exactly where your income is coming from, and most importantly, your finances are stable. If this sounds like something you want, well, text the word advice to the number 21000, and Logan Sadler and his team at Regari Financial can provide you with their free guide on achieving financial independence. The free guide will show you how to create an action plan for getting to where you want to be. It'll explain how to calculate a financial independence goal, and it'll define what an ICE egg is and why it's so important. Download it now by texting the word advice to the number 21000. Again, text the word advice to the number 21000 to gain your financial independence today.
Financial stability, relaxing retirement, tax reductions. Do those things sound like music to your ears? Then you've tuned to the right show, because here on the Financial Beat, we want to give you the tools to build your financial plan. So don't change that dial, because Logan Sadler has some information that will leave you singing the tune of a better retirement.
We're back now with more of the Financial Beat. You could say the beat goes on. Logan Sadler is on the radio. Go tell everybody you know, because he has some very important things to say about getting to and through retirement. Very important information I can pass along to you is Logan Sadler's phone number at Regari Financial. That is 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. Call that number, leave your name and phone number. You'll get a call back, and then you can arrange to have a discovery meeting with Logan. You can go to the website and find them online at financialbeatradio.com, financialbeatradio.com. But again, that all-important phone number to call is 888-823-PLAN. plan. Logan, sometimes we talk about these weird news stories here on this show, and some have to do with financial planning and others don't have anything at all to do with financial planning. And the one that I have in mind today is downright creepy. I mean, this is really creepy. A doctor in the UK is no longer allowed to practice after it was discovered that he'd been using a surgical device to brand his initials on patients' livers during liver transplant surgeries. Oh, my goodness, that is awful.
Yeah, that's pretty creepy. Like you said, that's one of those things that should just be kind of common sense that we shouldn't allow, right? So I think that's good. He's no longer practicing. It's just creepy. I mean, it makes you think about, like you said, you're unconscious when you're going through this type of stuff. So you're kind of like you're kind of not really aware of it until I don't know how they found out about it, but that's pretty creepy.
I guess a future surgery, a surgeon, another surgeon was looking at the liver and saw this guy's initials on it and said, "Hey, this is not right. We're going to do something about that."
Yeah. And he kind of left a trail of his name there, right? So it's not too smart on his end.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about real estate and retirement. And a lot of people, interested in getting into real estate these days, rental properties or whatever the case may be. And, that's always an intriguing thing. Sometimes it works out well. Other times not. Real estate can play an important role in some folks' retirement plans. What's your general view of these particular uses of real estate, and do you like to see these incorporated into your clients' financial plans? First of all, I mentioned it earlier, how about rental property?
Yeah, that's a really, that's more of the traditional way I would say that a lot of real estate people got into that industry, or the one we kind of know about, like I call it our grandfather, right? I mean, you kind of heard about that for generations. You buy a house, you probably keep your first home, then you buy a second home and a third home, and you rent them out and you got rental income from it, right? That's kind of like the traditional way. And I think it is a really good way to produce some income, throughout your working years, and also as you transition into retirement. It can be a very efficient mix for your overall portfolio. The one thing I always like to ask, though, and I actually cover this at our discovery meeting, and I'm not one of those people, those of our clients listening to the show, you know that I'm not one of those advisors that really talks bad on real estate or advises against it. It is a very good asset class to have. But one of the first things I like to ask is a lot of our clients coming on board with us are transitioning into that retirement plan or that retirement phase. So I always like to ask, do you enjoy being a landlord? And I think that's one of those things that will really kind of help me decide on what we think we should do with that property. If we should just keep it as a rental, as a cash flow, because you enjoy it and it's your passion, you're okay with being a landlord. Then I have some that say, you know what, Logan, I'm not okay with being a landlord. I'm kind of over this. I've had some good experiences, but more bad ones than good. It's kind of mixed reviews, but that's something we really like to ask because that's a very important planning topic to make sure you enjoy being that landlord. But rental properties have really proven to be a good asset class to have in retirement. I have a client of ours who came on board about a year ago, and they live out in Northern California, and it was one of those scenarios where, he had 4 other rental properties that he had, and so it was actually really great because he did really good about putting money away in his 401k, and his wife did the same in the IRA, and we were able to kind of sit down and really look at the numbers, and we were able to make up around 40 to about 45% of their income in retirement was from those rental homes, right? Mm-hmm. It's long-term renters, have been there 10, 15 years, some of them, so it was a really good scenario to be able to add into his overall plan as far as not just stock market, not just bonds, or not just annuities or life insurance. So it really added a lot more diversification in. So yeah, it really can be a good scenario in some cases.
As we talked about before on this show, also, you may do really well with rental properties when you're younger, and then when you get older, you might not feel like dealing with all that stuff anymore.
Yeah. You're right. I have other clients, like you said, Ron, where they've gotten to that 60-year-old range, 65-year-old range, and they said, yeah, I got 3 houses, and they've done really well, and I'm out, right? I want to sell them. I think taxes are very favorable right now, so let's get out of them. So you're right. I've seen it both ways, and great point there. It's not necessarily for everybody to transition into retirement with rental homes, but we have some that do and some that definitely don't want to. So good point.
And if you're older and if you haven't done it before, you're just thinking about getting into it, might want to give that a lot of thought because, having to deal with tenants and all that kind of thing, it's sometimes not very pleasant.
Correct.
We're talking about real estate and retirement. And how about a home equity line of credit? What's your thought on that?
If you look across kind of the industries, I guess it's very kind of a mixed reviews on these. Some people say they're really good, and some people say it's a bad option. I'm one of those. It can provide you some value if you're kind of in a tough situation, or if you need to free up some cash to do something else. It is. I know in that fix and flip world and all these other things where people are trying to, they're pulling a bunch of equities out of houses into other investments. Some people do very well at that. Some people really get burned. So it's something where I would just make sure you kind of understand the risk. Obviously you can only access so much of the funds available. There could be, added fees and cost involved in this, as well as it could affect your credit. So it's something where I just would really make sure you understand exactly what you're doing before you just pull the trigger. And that's, again, what this show's about is education. So make sure you educate yourself before you make that decision, and just jump on board. But it definitely can be something useful for some people, but really make sure you understand the ins and outs before you take the jump.
You mentioned flipping a moment ago, and we'll get to that in just a moment here. But how about real estate investment trusts or REITs? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's another topic that's pretty interesting. A lot of people, either love those or have heard horror stories, and there is really, really good REITs out there. Like Ron was saying, real estate investment trust. What those are basically is, you're a way to diversify real estate holdings through a fund essentially. And so they have, traditionally they have some very good dividends off these REITs. Their growth isn't too bad also, and so they are a great asset class. I have some clients that come in and say, "Hey, Logan, we're building a plan. I like everything, but I have stocks, I have bonds, I got ETFs, I have an annuity, or I have life insurance, but I also want something outside of just the traditional stock market," right? So REITs is one of those asset classes that we can pull in to really kind of diversify into other sectors. And it is one of those things that for some people can be a really great fit.
If you want to talk about any of these things, remember you can give Logan Sadler's office a call and arrange to have a discovery meeting, a chance for him to discover things about you and vice versa. Kind of a getting to know you session. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call for Regari Financial. 888-823-PLAN. We're talking about real estate and retirement here and how the two tie together. And how about reverse mortgages? I have heard so many good things about reverse mortgages. On the other hand, I think we've all heard some bad things about them. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a topic, like I've kind of said a couple times, I think. It has very, very mixed reviews. It's pretty split. I think some people think they're the saving grace, and some people think that they're just absolutely horrible and never used, right? I think personally, I've seen it with some of our clients where they have really, really helped people out. We have some of our clients that, the ball didn't bounce their way and they didn't really prepare as much as they needed to for retirement, and things got tight. They were in their later years and they really didn't have, the retirement lifestyle that they had kind of dreamed of or had envisioned. And that reverse mortgage was able to free up a lot of cash for them, create, a lot more cash flow, because now they're not having to make the payments. And those of you guys that don't know what a reverse mortgage is, I'm not promoting them or anything like that. Just kind of like basic overview essentially is you basically kind of give your house back to the bank, right? And essentially you're no longer paying a mortgage on it. You still kind of pay the utilities and everything else on it like you own the home, but it allows you to not have to make that mortgage payment sometimes or get cash out. So it's a really good way to free up some money if things are kind of getting tight in retirement and you really didn't plan on moving anyway. So it's one of those scenarios. I've seen it be very, very good in that scenario and help a lot of clients out and be a great fit. Now, I have seen it, even in my family life, and in our family, we've had a couple of these go down, and I've seen a lot of clients that have them that really makes no sense why they even have a reverse mortgage. So you really want to make sure you understand what you're kind of getting into. What are all of the pros and all of the cons? I had a family member that had a really great house. It was basically, one of those houses you'd want to pass on for generations. It was right out there by the beach, a great, great spot. And she, was in kind of a tight spot. So she just kind of reverse mortgaged the house to kind of free up a little freedom when she had a lot of other options on the table other than the reverse mortgage. So it wasn't necessarily a great fit in that example, but you really want to make sure you kind of understand them. I think they can be a very good fit for some people. And again, you just want to make sure it's the right fit for you.
Obviously, obviously, I guess that family member did not talk to you before she made that decision.
Did not talk to me. Yeah, did not talk to us, or really get any advice whatsoever. And so, like I always say, that's one of our jobs. For Gary Financial is you really want to rely on a lot of good financial advisors for the advice. Asking these questions about tax planning, estate planning, and things of that sort are very important.
And these are mighty big financial decisions, so you need to gather all the information you can before you make that decision. And, we see Tom Selleck a lot on TV these days, advertising reverse mortgages. And speaking of television, there are so many shows now on TV that are about, house repairs or remodeling or whatever. And house flipping has become a really big deal for a lot of folks. Some people have been doing it for a long time. Others have just taken it up. What are your thoughts on flipping houses?
Yeah, I think that is, like you said, Ron, everywhere you look on TV, there's Fix and Flip and all these other shows that are out there. So, I think it is a very profitable industry, and people, it's not new. It's been around forever, but it's getting really, really commercialized right now. And I think it is a really great thing for some people. Now, I would say, like you kind of said earlier with the rental properties, I would say the fix and flip is even more of a young man's game, right? Or a young woman's game. It's one of those things where I don't have many clients that come in here at 65 years old and say, I want to fix and flip houses, for retirement. That's not necessarily, I've actually never heard that. So it's one of those things where it's typically more of a younger person's game because it does involve a little bit more effort and research and really more of a thought out approach to make sure you're capitalizing. But, it is a great thing for some people that have a passion for it. I know some people personally that have done very well. They really enjoy, the risk. They enjoy the reward, and they really, really kind of have a passion for that. Now, with that being said, again, it's not for everybody. I'm not telling you to go out there and you're going to make tons of money flipping houses. It's definitely somewhere I know people that have done, awful, right? They haven't done very well at all. You really got to know what you're doing, and I think that's something kind of like some of these other topics that you really want to educate yourself on to make sure it's a good fit for you. And I think that's really what all this real estate stuff comes down to is you want to make sure that you're meeting with a financial advisor or that you have somebody on your team with your family to understand, the ins and outs of all these different topics. And again, that's what Gary Financial is here for. It's why we offer a free discovery meeting for our radio listeners. So give the call, come in, sit down. I'd be happy to educate you on some of these topics and see if they can be a fit for you.
And that conversation you have with Logan Sadler is not going to cost you anything, not going to obligate you to do anything at all down the road. So why not take advantage of the offer? The number is 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-7526. But the easy way to remember it is by using the word plan. And that's what this show is all about, planning to get to and through retirement. So an easy thing to remember there. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call for Gary Financial. Logan, once again, is the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Gary Financial and works with all three generations of some of the client families. Many of those clients have been with his firm for more than a quarter of a century and would love to have an opportunity to get to know you and help you on down the road when it comes to your retirement. Or maybe you're already retired and maybe your plan needs a little tweaking. 888-823-PLAN. That's your number to call to make it happen. Logan Sadler is on the radio, and we'll be right back with more of the Financial Beat in just a moment.
Do you ever find yourself skipping through countless songs trying to find the perfect one? Yeah, we've been there too, and know it can be frustrating. Much like skipping through the countless advertisements from other financial advisors, it can seem like there's so much misinformation. But here on the Financial Beat, you can rest assured we're providing you with the best information possible. So don't push skip on this show because we have some important information coming up.
Welcome back. This is the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Gary Financial, wherever you are in Southern California. If you're in Banning, Temecula, Menifee, Orange County, Corona, wherever you happen to be, we have listeners all over the place. Well, then you have come to the right place when it comes to getting to and through retirement. That's what Logan Sadler is all about. He's VP and Chief Investment Officer at Gary Financial. Gary has been around for a long time, and Logan's been doing this for quite some time as well. A lot of satisfied clients out there, and maybe you can become one of them, and that's why we do this radio show. 888-823-PLAN. A lot of what Logan Sadler does is educating folks and he's really good at it. He won't say that himself, but I'll say it. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. You can find out for yourself. Hey, let's make some assumptions here. Some are good, some are bad, but let's talk specifically about bad assumptions. Be careful of making assumptions in retirement planning before you know all the facts. And, of course, Logan Sadler can help you make sure that you are well informed on them. Some of the assumptions could be correct, but they just as likely could be wrong. Here's one assumption that a lot of folks make, and you tell us your thoughts on it. A Roth IRA will save you money in the end. Or maybe the opposite view, that a traditional IRA will save you money. Logan Sadler, why is it risky to make an assumption either way without knowing all the facts?
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think the Roth IRA, for those of you that don't know, Roth IRA grows, you pay taxes now and it grows tax-free, right? So in the end goal, you retire at age 65 with $1 million in your Roth IRA. That is 100% now tax-free on withdrawal. So it's something that, in a lot of advisors' opinions and mine as well, it is a huge, huge asset to have in retirement. I think having a Roth IRA to work with just makes things a lot easier when it comes to, again, not every advisor really recommends or knows a lot about these, but it's really something when you look at, a planner, an advisor that's looking at a financial plan and the end goal, it is a really, really great asset to have.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, the traditional IRA is still a really great investment vehicle. A lot of people will still talk bad about it, saying, oh, well, I get taxed at the end. Well, you do get taxed at the end, but you also got a tax break throughout your whole working career, right? And I think a lot of us always will focus on just the cons, right? You also want to focus on the pros. The pro is you did get a deduction on that the whole time you were putting money away. You did get tax favors that whole working year. So I think there's definitely pros and cons to both of them, but I think really understanding how they kind of fit for you is really important. I think there's some times where I have recommended, the traditional IRA or the traditional 401k, because some of you guys might just be getting absolutely killed in taxes, and your taxes may go down in retirement. I have some of you that, your net worths are growing, and you're really going to be hit hard on taxes in the end goal. So it really, really makes sense to start transitioning more and more money to Roth. So I think, like you said, Ron, just kind of understanding which one fits you and understanding the benefits to both of them. And really, to me, it all comes down to the numbers. We have several different calculations we'll run to see which one we can get the most money out of over the long run. And I think that's what's really, really important about understanding the right choice for your situation.
And another assumption I want to mention here, and this is one that I believe, taxes are probably almost certainly going to go up in the future. They're going to be higher then than they are now. So that's another advantage to having a Roth.
Yeah. Like you said, the Roth IRAs, I can't talk enough about how good they are for some of our clients. I have a lot of clients where we started Roth conversions a few years ago, or they've always just kind of had a Roth they've been contributing to along the way. And again, I have clients that come in with, they have $1 million in a 401k, and then they have $300,000 or $400,000 in a Roth IRA. And they always say, well, I wish I would have had more money in the Roth, or more money in the Roth IRA than the traditional. But at least having something in that Roth IRA at that end goal, like you said, Ron, it just helps us protect against a lot of different things, including a lot of you listening, like Ron said, you fear those rising taxes. So it's something that it's a really great way to kind of help limit that risk for those of you that do fear the rising taxes.
Logan Sadler is on the radio with the Financial Beat. I'm Ron Stutz, and we're talking about bad assumptions and sometimes good assumptions, I guess. But here's one that is pretty commonly thought about, and this may take a little explaining here. Delaying Social Security is going to yield the most income over the long haul. Is that a bad assumption to make?
I would say it's not a safe one, right? I think it's something where for most people, waiting isn't always the best option. I have some clients where it really makes sense to use your money in Social Security to start it earlier. If you're retiring early, you have significant assets, you're looking at kind of leaving more of a legacy, meaning you want to kind of delay a lot of your funds that you've accumulated that actually pass on to your surviving benefit, to your kids or your heirs. There's a lot of different ways I've recommended to use Social Security, and it really does kind of depend on that client. There is many times where it does make a lot of sense to delay it. I have some clients that turn 62, call up, and they say, hey, Logan, I'd like to get a meeting together. I'm going to start Social Security, but you're still working and making, $200,000 a year. That might not be the best thing, right? When you look at, by the way, Mr. Jones, that is now taxable income, right? So And then it it reiterates, it's not necessarily how much money Social Security pays out to you. It's how much money you got to keep along the way, right? And I think that's where the calculations sometimes can be different and really make an impact over a 10, 15, 20-year run with that Social Security. So I think a lot of people, I know what we do when we come in with our clients is in a review meeting, a discovery meeting. It doesn't really matter, whatever meeting we're in with that client. When Social Security gets brought up, let's run some calculations with our planning and see what makes the most sense for you, not only financial wise and money wise, but also tax wise. I think that's the most important thing. And you really do have a lot of different situations where Social Security is better at different ages. It's just really making sure you get that advice that it's right for you.
Well, it's obviously very safe to say that there's a lot of strategy involved when it comes to deciding exactly when to take Social Security. And a lot of people make the wrong decision, then it's too late. Can't go back and change it. So that's another reason for calling Logan Sadler and talking about all this stuff before you take that leap into something that may not turn out well. Make sure you're taking Social Security at the right time for you. Also, here's another assumption that people make. Putting your money in bonds creates a safer portfolio. Is that true?
That's one of the old rules of thumb, right? You hear, oh, well, stocks are scary, bonds are safe. That's what everyone's always been kind of brainwashed to think, and that's not necessarily the case. Now, historically, when you look back, yes, bonds are they are a little more stable than the traditional stock market, right? But they are not guaranteed. They still fluctuate in value, and they still carry risk. And I think that's where a lot of advisors really don't position bonds correctly. Bonds aren't the safest investment in the world, but they are traditionally a little bit less risk than stocks or equities. So really kind of what I always like to say is we really want to identify what your overall risk tolerance is. And then what we do after that is then you get that efficient mix you need between the bond and equity market to make sure we have some investments in there that are for diversification. And that's what advisors, when you're building out a financial plan for somebody, most bonds that we use in a portfolio are solely there for diversification, right? They're there for traditionally when stocks go down, bonds don't go down as much. So that's kind of, it's just kind of having that relationship. And I think a lot of people don't understand the interest rate risk that bonds carry. They're typically, historically looking, they're kind of inverse with bonds. So typically as bonds go up, interest rates typically go down, and then vice versa. So you really kind of want to understand the risk of every investment. And I think that's what I see most when we're meeting with all these people. Again, we've met with, at our firm, over the last 25 years, we've met with thousands of different people and really kind of helping them understand the risks associated with each investment. And like I say all the time, every investment has a pro and a con, right? You just want to make sure for what you're getting into that investment for, the pros outweigh the cons. And that to me is what is most important when looking at a portfolio. And, I think that's the thing with bonds. A lot of people just think, hey, I'm putting money in this bond. They will never go down or it won't fluctuate that much. And that's not necessarily always true.
Logan, a lot of people changing jobs these days, and sometimes it's not their decision. It's not what they want to do. And a lot of people, losing their jobs, being laid off, and then offered some kind of a package. And an assumption that a lot of people have made over the years is taking a lump sum is always the best approach when given the chance for a lump sum or some kind of a monthly pension. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and that was a nice way to put it, Ron, right? Leaving their job, not always when they want to, but
being walked out.
Yeah, exactly. But this is another thing that is so important. A lot of you out there don't know, but some of your pensions, not every pension, but some of the pensions do have what's called a lump sum option. So like Ron was saying, all right, we'll give you $1,000 a month forever, or for you and your wife, we'll give you $800 a month forever, right? And you both get it. Or if you pass away, she gets 50% of that $1,000. Or there's a lot of different ways to kind of work it. And then there's also what's called a lump sum option. So instead of that $1,000 a month, we'll give you a lump sum of $500,000, right, or $200,000, or whatever the amount is. Mm-hmm. It's something where we always recommend getting advice from a financial advisor that understands that is a comprehensive advisor. I think what you want to make sure you're understanding is there is a lot of times where it does make sense to take that lump sum option. And I think what it allows you to do, what the pros of that would be is it really does give you more investment control, right? You have an idea of, I want to put it into an annuity for my own payment. I want to put it into the market for more growth. I mean, you really or I want to save it and let it go to the kids, right? You just have a lot more a lot more say in the matter and a lot more financial control. Now, with that being said, I have seen some examples where the payout off of the pension is so much better than what you can get off of the lump sum, right? So I've really seen it be kind of a big difference there for some people. And I really always recommend come in, it costs nothing to give us a call. If you're already a client listening to the show, you guys already know, just give us a call and we will sit down and really kind of crunch the numbers to see what makes sense, because you typically only get one shot at this, right? You don't typically get multiple lump sums in your life from pensions or payouts from when you're leaving a job. So you really want to make sure that we're kind of crunching the numbers and making sure we're doing what's best for your family. Because again, it's a big choice. It's something that you probably won't get another shot at this. So let's make sure we do it correctly and look at it from not just one angle. I think a lot of people will call, they'll call the employer and have them kind of run it through it. But it's not necessarily an unbiased third party, right? It's somebody that works for the company. So you want to make sure that you understand and you're getting advice from somebody that's from the outside. Obviously, it's someone that's qualified to discuss this and give the advice, but it is something where we have seen it be kind of a burden for a lot of people where they make that wrong decision and it kind of haunts them, right, throughout those years. So it's something where, again, making sure you're getting the right advice. And that's what we offer here at Regary Financial. I always tell people, one of the best things that we do as financial advisors for our clients, stock market's the stock market, annuities are annuities, financial products are financial products. But what we offer is really making sure that we're there when our clients need us and really looking at more of a planning aspect and giving that advice when it's needed, because again, there's a lot of challenges like this throughout your life where you're going to need that extra advice, and that's exactly what we're here to provide. So give us a call. Love to spend an hour with you on a Zoom call or over the phone or in person and sit down and kind of see how we could bring some value to you and your family.
A lot of important decisions to be made, and all of these big financial decisions require a lot of thought and a lot of knowledge, and you can acquire that by calling Logan Sadler. Number to call, 888-823-PLAN. He'll be happy to sit down and talk with you about the situations in your life. 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-7526. That number is for Regary Financial. Offices in Hemet and Redlands. And you can arrange a discovery meeting with Logan Sadler by simply calling that number and leaving your name and phone number. And when you do have that discovery meeting, it's not going to cost you anything, not one penny, and not going to obligate you to do anything at all beyond that. So why not take advantage of the opportunity? 888-823-PLAN. When you do have that discovery meeting, you'll be talking with Logan Sadler, same guy you hear on the radio here, and he is, what you think. He's exactly what you hear is what you get, is a good way to put it. Nice guy. You're going to have a nice, friendly conversation. It's not going to be any salesmanship involved or anything like that. Just a getting to know you session. One more time, 888-823-PLAN. Logan Sadler is on the radio with more of the Financial Beat coming up in just a moment. Right now, we'll take this quick time out.
You're listening to The Financial Beat, the show that makes sure your financial plan has the perfect pitch.
Welcome back to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Vice President and Chief Investment Officer, Regary Financial. Regary's been around for a long time, helping so many folks with getting to and through retirement. Logan Sadler is the guy you hear on the radio here, and he would love to sit down and talk with you, whether it be on a phone call or a discovery meeting via Zoom, or maybe you might want to come into one of the offices, Redlands or Hemet. You can arrange that to happen by calling 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-PLAN. One more time, that number for Regary Financial is 888-823-PLAN. Logan also has a podcast that is available, and Logan, tell our listeners about that. How did they get it?
Yeah, it's actually, for those of you driving around in the car right now, listening to the show live, you actually can go over to, Apple Music, Spotify, any of Amazon Music, wherever you download podcasts. You can actually go over there and click any of the shows that have been aired on the radio. You actually can listen to them at your convenience whenever you want. So you actually, like I said, head over to anywhere you download podcasts and just type in The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. And I believe there's over like 45 episodes. You can go on there, check it out at your convenience, and listen to it from anywhere. So that's how you find the podcast.
And if you're lying awake at night and you can't go to sleep because you're worried about financial matters and worried about outliving your money, well, then 3 o'clock in the morning you can get up and you can go there and listen to one of the shows. So, hey, that's a good thing. Let's talk about a little history lesson here. Logan. We do this every week, and I think they're kind of interesting. One more time, that number to call for you is 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-PLAN. Don't want to forget that. It's so important. 20 years ago, January 22nd, 2002, Kmart became the largest retailer in U.S. history to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. And Kmart was a really big deal back in the day. Now, not so much.
Yeah, that is amazing to hear. And I looked this up really not that long ago. It was last year, I believe. And they were saying something like there's only, I think, around 6 Kmarts left.
Yeah.
I think you look from 2022, so what is that now? Basically 20 years ago, essentially.
Yep.
That they went from one of the biggest chains around to 6 stores. So it is amazing how fast this online and on demand stuff has really changed a lot of these retail stores. But that's crazy. 20 years ago, wow.
Yeah, and I would think that Walmart has probably taken over a lot of those Kmart customers as well. So
you're right. Yeah, Walmart, now Amazon, right? Everybody just clicks on the phone and it's there in 2 days.
Yeah, very convenient. Well, let's go to the mailbag here because we have some great questions this week. As always, our first one today is from Jesse in Corona. Jesse says, we just found out that our daughter is pregnant with our first grandchild. They don't necessarily need help with money. In fact, I think they do pretty well financially, but we'd still like to assist as much as we can from a financial standpoint. Logan, what do you think are the most helpful things that we could do in our position?
Yeah, well, first off, congratulations. Everybody loves a new granddaughter coming in, right, or grandchild. So that is awesome. So, there's a lot of different things you could do financially to either help the kids or to help the grandchild. So there is other things out there like, obviously gifting money or helping with school. I know a lot of people, their kids are going to private school or they're going to daycare or whatever the situation is. Helping out for things like that can be a really great way to assist your kids in that aspect.
Yep.
There's also other ways to help the grandchild where you look at things like saving for college, like 529 plans can be a great asset for that. There's other things where you might say, hey, I just want this kid to have some money when they're 18 or 20 years old or 25 years old to where they could use it for a wedding or a down payment on the house, right? There's a lot of different ways you could do things where you open an account in your name and the grandkids are the beneficiary. So if something happens to you, that money's paid out to the grandkids, or if you just wanted to, give them their portion of it when you're alive, you have that option too. There's other accounts like uniform transfer to minor accounts where it's set up in the kid's name. So you own the account or a custodian owns the account until they're 18, then it transfers over to the kids. So there's a lot of fun ways you can kind of position things to really, help out the grandchildren or help out your child. There's a lot of different ways you could do things, like I mentioned, that really can be beneficial. And I know, trust me, from, coming from a big family, you really want to help out the grandkids and your kids. I know it's something where a lot of people just, if you're in that position where you can, it is a really great way to, just spread some joy and really kind of fulfill that role as the grandparent that you wanted to. So congratulations.
Oh, obviously, he's mentioned, Jesse said he thinks they do pretty well financially, but that could be, I don't have any idea about Jesse and his family, but that could be a bad assumption right there as well. Maybe they need more help financially than you think.
Well, I know some people that say, well, my kids make a ton of money, right? But they probably don't have a ton of money, right? There are a lot of people that are younger are really, really good at spending it.
Yes.
Especially in this day and age where, a lot of the employer wages are really, really high. So trust me, I've seen, kids that are making $100,000 or $200,000 a year still living at home. So it is something that, like you said, you can't necessarily be too safe there and assume anything.
Yeah. Next question here is from Vicky in Big Bear, and I hope it's a good day in Big Bear today. Vicky says, I'm retiring soon, and I asked my financial advisor when I should think about starting my Social Security. Oh boy, here's another Social Security question. He said that Social Security questions fall outside of his purview. Where can I find someone to talk to about this? Obvious answer here, folks.
Yeah, no kidding, right? I think, there's a lot of people out there that will, and I'm not talking bad on anybody or picking on your advisor in this situation, Vicky, but, I think there's a lot of people out there that kind of position themselves as financial advisors, but my only, position a product. They really only do kind of a one-trick pony, right? They only do one thing. And I think that's really what we've kind of gone against over the last few years, several years. It's really more about people need more full-service financial planning, right? They want to look at things like you in this situation. They want to look at things like Social Security. When is the best time to take it? Now, of course, we don't work for Social Security and we don't know every single in and out of Social Security, but we can also advise on when is the best time to take it? How do we maximize it? All that stuff is really easy for a good advisor to figure out. But like you said, I think a lot of people are looking for that more full service financial planning firm that looks at things like tax planning, estate planning, Social Security planning. So I think you kind of probably, like I said, I'd never talk bad on advisors or anybody in that situation, but you probably need to give us a call and come in and sit down, and we could definitely help you out with kind of finding out when is that optimal time to take Social Security.
You're listening to The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, VP, Chief Investment Officer at Brigari Financial, serving you in Southern California and beyond. And there are offices in Hemet and Redlands. And once again, Logan's number is 888-823-PLAN. You can call that number and get a discovery meeting going with Logan, 888-823-PLAN. We're in the mailbag segment of our show here today. And Logan, I'm looking forward to hearing your response to this question. Got a question from Michelle in Sun City. And Michelle says, I worked in the medical field for the last 6 years, and I'm told that if I keep this same job for a total of 10 years, then my student loans will be forgiven. With my income, I could pay about $4,000 a month toward the loans, but I don't want to pay them down if they're going to be forgiven. Should I just pay as little as possible in my student loans and put all of that money towards saving for retirement instead?
Yeah, great question. This is something where it is a tough situation. I always like to say this is one of those things you're kind of leaving to chance either way, right? That program through your work can get rid of the paying back your student loans, and now you've delayed it for five or 6 or 7 years, and now you have all these interest payments that are going to be due, or your amount is still the same. And one thing I've kind of known of people is, it looks like you've kind of just really, getting going in the medical field. And here's the thing. There's one of those things where you probably are going to get used to spending that $4,000 a month you were going to put towards your loans on something else, right? And I think it gets to a point where sometimes later on, and now when you're in year 7, 8, or 9, you might have been spending that money now instead of saving it or putting it towards retirement like you kind of want to. And now all of a sudden, what happens if that program goes away where they're going to forgive your student loans? So I think I had a lot of clients, a lot of the younger generation I've been advising as well, that was not going to pay their student loans during this COVID pandemic because there was talks about, them forgiving the loans. And now look what happened. They didn't forgive the loans. A lot of them still, now the interest payments start back. So it's something where you really kind of want to look at this from a couple different angles. And I can't really tell you one way or the other. I could just give you my advice. I would probably say, I would put $2,000 a month towards those student loans. That way it leaves you an extra $2,000 a month to start saving for retirement, which is still a ton. So I think that's a way to do it, to where you're going to kind of hedge that either way, to where you've at least paid down some of your loans, but you've also been able to save money and invest and grow your wealth as well in the process. So I think I would kind of take that, double-edged way of looking at things, to where you're kind of hedging your bet either way.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of conversation about that going on right now, and that's a very timely question from Michelle. Also, good questions today from Vicki and Jesse, and we know a lot of our listeners out there have various questions about getting to and through retirement, how it relates to grocery shopping, and whatever else we talked about on today's show, and it's been kind of a gamut. Logan, I know that a lot of folks out there would love to have a discovery meeting, to come in and have a conversation with you and kind of get to know you, and you can get to know them a little bit better. What happens when they call the number that I'm going to give out here in just a moment to get one of those discovery meetings going?
Yeah, if you're one of those clients driving around listening to the show and you've saved up a good amount for retirement and you're ready to start getting more of a comprehensive plan together for distribution, right? You're looking at ways to, how am I going to retire? And I think that's when you make that call. Give us a call and come in, sit down. And at that discovery meeting, we're going to cover a lot more than just investments. We're going to look at your overall picture, looking at investment planning, tax planning, estate planning, a lot of different things we're going to throw in there to making sure that we're covering your financial plan from all angles. And I think that's one thing in this business. I always know you can't promise much because it's lot of it's based off of other people like the markets and things of that sort. But we can promise to bring value and to bring service to the table. And that's exactly what you get when you call Regary Financial.
888-823-PLAN. I hope you've written down that number already or put it in your phone, whatever you need to do to remember it. But the best thing to do is call it right now. 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-7526. Call that number, leave your name and phone number. You'll get a call back from Regary Financial and set a time to have a conversation with Logan Sadler. And please remember, it's all-encompassing. Logan Sadler takes a look at all the aspects of your retirement planning, your life, the kind of lifestyle you want in your retirement years. They have great partnerships with local CPAs, attorneys, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, and Medicare specialists to help offer well-rounded guidance in all things financial for their clients. It all starts with a discovery meeting, and that is, again, no cost, no obligation. The number to call to make that happen is 888-823-PLAN. Please remember that number, 888-823-PLAN. Ron Stutz here along with the amazing Logan Sadler. I say amazing because he brings out some interesting facts every single show we have. And Logan, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you for a while.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. Appreciate you being a part of it. And hey, I think we brought a pretty diverse show today. We talked about real estate, bats, Social Security, grocery shopping. We covered about everything I think you can cover on an hour show.
That probably will be the last time we ever talk about bats.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys all for listening. We appreciate it. Again, looking forward to a great rest of the year and look forward to next week.
Join us again next time for the next edition of the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler of Regary Financial.
The information provided is for educational purposes only and is not intended as investment advice for anyone. All information discussed is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. The views presented today are those of BD Financial Group and do not necessarily represent the views of AlphaStar Capital Management, LLC. The opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not constitute financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult with your financial professional before executing any financial strategy. Investment advisory and financial planning services are offered through AlphaStar Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. AlphaStar and BD Financial Group are independent entities.